A couple of my favorite areas of study are game theory and behavioral economics. We've explored a couple of game theories as favorite experiments in our posts about Moloch. The prisoner's dilemma is perhaps the most famous. In the blog, there's a helpful graphic from a New Scientist article on game theory, but I'll walk you through what's going on there. So imagine you and an accomplice have been taken prisoner for a crime. If you both stay silent, you will both go free. But if one of you talks and the other doesn't talk, the one who talks gets 2 years and the one who doesn't talk gets 5 years. This makes it difficult because you're thinking, well, if I don't talk, likely this other person might talk, which means they'll get less time in prison. Even though if you both don't talk, neither of you are going away. But since you can't talk to each other, how do you play this game? The last incentive is if you both talk, you both get 5 years. So, really, what's going to happen most of the time is you're going to confess on each other and get the 5 years. Generally, game theory looks at life as if it is a game against a combination of competitive and cooperative agents. Game theorists devise interesting environments to interact within and measure how different factors influence individual and macro choices. A common theory often cited in machine learning is a Nash equilibrium, which is summed up by the idea of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If something is working for you, keep doing it and don't deviate. Behavioral economics incorporates bits of game theory but is broader in scope. The idea behind it is the prevailing economic theory that people will act to maximize rational choices in an economic system based on the information they have at their disposal. Richard Thaler and his colleagues called the people in this type of system Homo economicus because when you think about it, the idea is a bit robotic. I think we all know we would like to act rationally, but humans have emotions, we're messy, filled with bias and unique experiences, which gives us all a slightly different definition of rational. Instead, Thaler argues we need to consider how complex systems, complex humans, and complex events interact in a more predictable manner. We will not dive deep into this topic, but I would highly recommend reading Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely or watch his fabulous TED Talks. Both of these fields have direct impacts on the field of machine learning and our path toward artificial general intelligence. Many of the algorithms nowadays are designed to play games to learn, and if you think about it, that is how we humans learn best as well, through demonstration, by doing and practicing, preferably under the guidance of an expert. So, what sort of game can we devise to solve the problem of Moloch's influence? Win Win has a way. John Rawls, a badass political philosopher in the later half of the 20th century, came up with the theory of justice as fairness. His most famous thought experiment was one called original position, or more commonly called the veil of ignorance. To demonstrate this game, I would like you to consider the following scenario. You and a friend stumble across a briefcase filled with $1 million. Since you found the briefcase, you decide how to split the money, but you do not choose which half to take. For example, if you split it 80-20, your friend would choose the 80, leaving you with the 20. Chances are you will split it fairly, probably 50-50, to maximize your chance of gain. The real thought experiment focuses on building things like distribution of wealth through this idea. In other words, if you were a temporary god and could slide a finger on the scales of wealth distribution, how would you split things up if once you decided you were randomly thrown into that distribution? Moreover, after the veil is lifted, would you still agree with your own choice no matter where you ended up? Let's not get too deep here. I think the concept is easy to grasp, but would highly recommend checking out more on the subject if you're interested. Instead, let's focus on AI alignment and how this is a strong concept in Win Win's toolbox.